The purpose of this video is to provide a quick demonstration on how we can use the Isokinetic dynamometer to assess knee flexion and extension torque. So first of all, if we head to the Humax software, whilst the dyno is powering up, it's important that we centralize the dyno arm. So in order to do that, we need to make sure the groove on top of the dyno arm is in line with the red dot. We can then select Start. Then click OK. So the first thing we need to do is enter patient details. If we've got an existing patient, we can search for their name, or alternatively, add new. We need some basic information, so I'm going to enter the name, date of birth, height, weight, and gender. At the bottom, just select the tester and click OK. So now we've entered the patient details, we have more options available to us at the top. I'm going to open up the test tab, and this brings us a list of all of the available tests that we can perform using the Isokinetic. Today, as mentioned previously, we're going to go for a knee extension flexion protocol. So the most common protocol is a 3-speed one, and that includes assessments at 60, 180 and 240 degrees per second. To speed things up slightly, I'm just going to delete the 180 and 240 assessments, and we're going to go through a 60-degree assessment. To ensure we're happy with all of the components of that test, if we highlight the row and select Edit. So here we have the option to change the mode of the assessment, the action, so we could change it from a concentric to a concentric eccentric, for example. Today we're going to go for concentric. We're going to go for 3 trial reps, followed by 45 seconds recovery. And following that, we're going to have 3 actual reps of maximal intensity, followed by a very short rest period of 10 seconds. We can just confirm the speed, or alternatively, we could change this using the drop-down menu. So I'm happy with the test setup. I can then click OK. So once we're happy with the components of the test itself, if we select OK, we now have the option to configure both the dyno and the chair and change those coordinates. So initially, you need to make sure you have highlighted the correct limb. So we're going to go for the right side and then select All Tests. This brings us up a generic setup. So we have coordinates for the chair position, so a rotation scale of 40 green, back angle 85, fore after position 15. It's important to point out that this is a generic setup, and once you get your participants seated, we might have to make some minute adjustments depending upon the length of their limbs, for example. So once we're happy we've got the generic setup in place and we have all of the necessary components to conduct the test, we can go ahead and click OK. So prior to assessing the anatomical 0 position, we might just need to tweak, for example, the fore after position. The most important thing prior to conducting the test is to try and centralize the joint to the black dot in the middle of the dyno arm. Okay, so I'm going to instruct my participant to move to anatomical 0, so in this instance, full extension of the knee, and click OK. Whilst they're in that position, we can now set the extension range of motion, and now they're moving into full flexion, and we can set the flexion range of motion. Once we're happy with those, if you then select Set Range of Motion, and I'll draw your attention to these mechanical stop positions. So the extension mechanical stop needs to be placed on green H and the flexion on black U. So to move the mechanical stops, we simply have to pull the pin out the back and we can spin that around to the desired location. Once we're happy that they're in place, we can select OK. The final thing we need to do before data collection is weigh the athlete's limb. So again, instruct the athlete to go to full extension and then slightly out of lock. If we then select lock on the screen and instruct the athlete to completely relax their leg, wait a few seconds and then select weigh limb. We can then click OK. So from this screen, the dyno wants the athlete to move into full flexion, and that will initiate the warm-up reps. So we have 3 warm-up reps, and the idea is that we provide graduated intensity. So each rep increases towards something that's near maximal. So we now have 45 seconds rest prior to our 3 actual data collection reps. During this time, it's worth just making sure your athlete's comfortable and also all of the straps are in place. So the most common problems that we face are that the thigh strap might become slightly loose. They start to flex at the hip, for example. And also the shin pad might start to rotate and can start to dig in and be quite uncomfortable for your participant. So it's just worth making sure that's done up tight enough and also not rotating as we go through the flexion extension pattern. Okay, so we're now instructed to move back into full flexion, and that will initiate our actual 3 data collection reps.
1, 2.
And we've got 10 seconds recovery before we're able to then look at the data and produce some kind of report. So to acquire the data and produce a report, we now need to click OK. If you've only tested a single limb, then you will be presented with this error message. If you're happy with that, then select yes. If you desire to test the other limb, then obviously select no. So using the drop-down menu, we've got a series of options. The most common option is to produce a long-form torque versus position report. And this will be similar to what's displayed next to the isokinetic dynamometer on the wall. So what we now have is a graphical representation of the best rep for the extensors and the flexors. And beneath these graphs, we have some key data points. So for example, we have peak torque of the extensors and flexors. We also have the average power. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we have the time parameters and also the angular parameters in terms of the joint angle at peak torque, for example. I hope this video has been useful. Thanks for watching.